It's not a charity. We're not here to help you. We're not here to help your cause. We're there to make our money make money.
It probably takes a year to 2 years to really start seeing money.
That title of executive producer on a feature is not the same as the title of executive producer on a television show.
Because what you're seeing on television right now is history in terms of where decisions are being made today.
Don't give yourself a bad review before you start.
I'm sorry, I'm super awesome, and this is my pitch.
What are recommendations for packaging?
Getting to the right person at the right time, and you have the right piece of the package that they want to see.
And be able to adjust, because the plan will never execute exactly as you plan it.
If you set aside money for social media, for a publicist, for marketing, things like that, and really you don't have to sit behind those dollars and you can have more control of your own release.
You can't go wrong. But as for me, I knew that my episode was either going to be awesome or fine. That's the risk you're taking.
That's right. It is the La Femme Film Festival 2022. I got with me Rebecca. I know we got a lot of things going on today. I know yesterday we did a lot of people that we interviewed, and we had some really good filmmakers. Today we have a whole host of films, a screenwriter coming up in just a few. Rebecca, I know you're traveling the world. You're on tour. Figuring out what's happening. Yesterday, we connected with somebody actually around you. They were in Paris, and they said, hey, we do things for free here. Did you know that?
Did you also know that they pour wine at lunch when they're filming movies?
I didn't. No, I did not know that. No, I'm gonna pretend. I was gonna pretend like I know that. No, yeah. Rebecca's a producer.
I want to film movies there.
Yeah. See, exactly. Rebecca's a producer. She's a person that you kind of, when you need something, you go, should I not? And she knows what she's doing with that. She is definitely one among many that we're going to be speaking to today, which actually understand the world of film. And La Femme Film Festival. What I love, and I've loved every single year, is that we promote women, not just in film, but producing film, making it happen, making the decision, making kind of even heads roll sometimes. Like if you got to fire someone, you fire someone, right, Rebecca?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really exciting to watch women who are running the show, who are figuring out the financing situation, who are putting the budgets together, who are doing the writing, who are doing the show running, who are also acting, also directing. Like, it's exciting. We're finally doing it. We're doing it all.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing all happening right now. So I'm excited by this. I'm excited to have Rebecca with us, especially today. I know it's almost midnight there around the world. So there it's dark, here it's light. So we're going to have fun with this. All right. And if you guys want to check it out, I'm going to bring it up real quick for you guys to see here. You can actually click on the link. It's lafemme.eventive.org/films. And you can watch any and all of these films, over 120, right there on your device, whether it be a television set with a smart, with all the apps that you download like Roku and such. You just get it, you subscribe, and you click there, and you'll see all that great stuff. In fact, let me just bring that up so you guys can see it as well. All of these films are available for you to see right this week, October 13th through the 16th, from your own comfort of your home or out on the road. If you have streaming capability, you can watch it that way. And all of these films are the films that are going to be seen throughout the week. And again, this is international. So even though Rebecca's way around the other side of the world, where the sun has pretty much almost set, she can actually tune in. Anyone can tune in from anywhere around the world. And that's the great thing about this year's La Femme Film Fest, which you don't have to be here in LA to actually participate, which usually happens. Our very good founder and creator of La Femme, she would say she was one among many, but she actually partook in a time of a discussion where I think they were at Cannes or one of the film festivals, and I said, how come we're not seeing more women film? And somebody said, well, they're there, but they're not promoting it. She goes, yeah, we need to do something. And a few actually said, hey, let's make it happen. But it was Leslie that I think got stuck with it. So she's been doing it every single year. This is the 18th, my goodness, 18th annual La Femme Film Festival. So all you have to do is click there, click on the video you want to see. You can watch it just one, or you can get the all access pass. Okay. The all access pass makes it available for you to be able to participate for $49.99. You get to partake not just in all of the other films, but also if you're a filmmaker or you want to get into the world of film, they also have panels and panel discussions that are going to be talked about as well. And that is all right here, all available thanks to La Femme and Eventive, our friends over there. You'll be able to see all the panels right there, including the art of the pitch perfect, and the art of inclusion. I love the pitch, especially because, well, let's put it this way. When you have a pitch, you have someone with a film idea or a script. And joining us right now is someone who exactly has that. And I know, Rebecca, whenever you think of a script, you read it, you say, okay, sometimes it needs to go through like a rewrite, but you kind of, if you have the bones, you could work with that, right?
Totally. I think an idea is actually very underrated. And I think that women are really bad at thinking we might have an idea and it's good enough to, whether or not the writing is good enough or whether or not, it's a solid idea. I think it's good to just put it out there. And then there's always opportunities to rewrite or to expand on an idea, or, I think starting with a good idea is huge.
Exactly. So speaking of huge, we got Alia Alfaro joining us. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Alia.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Alia, I know you've got a selection among the top here at La Femme. You are a finalist in the screenwriting direction there, and also it's called Reckoning Unforeseen. What's it about?
So it's about a freshly hired detective who teams up with the departmental psychiatrist, and they are trying to track down a serial abductor who takes sexual predators and tortures them metaphysically.
Okay, that sounds exciting. I think Rebecca, you have a thought there.
No, I mean, expand a little bit more on what's the metaphysical like.
So the abductor takes these. They all have records of sexual predator, whether it's rape or all of that kind of stuff. So that the person abducts them and actually sticks them in the most haunted places in America, and ties them to a chair. So for 3 days, they're just in a haunted place, and
Cool.
they get tortured metaphysically and come out with severe PTSD. And that's it. They just have to experience basically what that venue has to offer in terms of hauntings. But it's not very heavy in that aspect of it. It's a little bit more procedural, and it's 2 female leads, which is exciting. And the twist of it at the end of the season, because it's a pilot, you find out that it's actually the psychiatrist who's the abductor. So
Wow.
the whole time it's set up to look like it's a male in cahoots with another female, she dresses as a prostitute. So that's how they kind of get these predators. But in the end, you find out it's actually the psychiatrist, and she sort of infiltrated the department. But the 2 leads end up falling in love as well.
Okay.
So
we love a good female psycho.
Yes. And it's only sexual predators. So,
yes.
So it's sort of like Dexter meets Law and Order SVU, I guess, if you were to put 2 shows together.
Yeah. And what's been the journey with this show? Like, how long have you been working on this, and how have you been trying to get it?
So I wrote it back in March.
Okay.
Like any good idea, might have been slightly intoxicated when I had
where
the
they all
idea.
come from.
I was so drunk, and I was like, Mike Flanagan, the filmmaker and writer who did The Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, I really enjoy his work because a lot of the stuff is story-based with horror sort of on the side, and you get these really beautiful stories of these really well-developed characters, and you're watching all these people go through this journey. And I thought when I was drunk, I could write something like this, but like a female, version of a little bit of everything that I love. So I sat down and wrote down all the things that scare me, all the things that I like, how twisted I am in my mind. And my wife and I actually went over, sort of bounced ideas off of each other. And I was like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I literally had sort of like the bones for it. And then I spent about 3 weeks just writing it day in and day out. And I thought I was kind of going insane because I was like, I don't even know if this is good. Because I got really into the world of just abduction and like how you do that. And, because I really like true crime stuff. So Yeah, and then so 3 weeks later, I had written it and I sent it out to a couple people, and I'm like, just let me know if it's completely crazy and I'm just insane. And I had really great reactions from it, and then
great.
I just kept, sending it out to other writers, and I would get opinions on it, what they thought, and just edit it, and then I submitted it to festivals this year, so it's all relatively new. It's a brand new script, really. So I haven't gone anywhere with it. I've just been submitting it to festivals to see what the reaction is. And it's gotten, from quarterfinalist to honorable mention to in festivals, so about 6 now.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a finalist in Imagine This Women's Festival in New York. And that wrapped up, I think, a week ago. So yeah, it's been like a really great, well-received piece. So it's kind of exciting.
Good.
Well, I want to say congratulations. Sometimes in the writing of it, you kind of like, and I'm glad you fell into it and you complete it from like start to finish. Sometimes people start a project and then they have to work and they have to do other things and they kind of leave it there. But to get the flow of it, okay, did you ever visualize someone as the actor or actress? Like,
Yeah.
Did you see some in your mind while you were doing it? Or do you like think maybe, going forward, you're open, but if, someone always goes, did you write it for someone?
Yeah. So I'm an actress, actually, and I was writing for opportunities for myself. So I would be the psychiatrist, the psycho.
That makes sense.
The drunk lady, I guess. And then Natalie Morales, she's been on a bunch of things, but I really saw her in Dead to Me. And I thought she'd be a great detective. She's a really fantastic actress. So that was kind of who I pictured in a sense of the matching of the two. Because I also am all about inclusive and representation too in the community for diversity. Like I'm a lesbian. So I always would like to see stories and representation told in sort of a more authentic way versus just checking a box, or people writing an idea of what gay is, because a lot of the times it's butch. I'm a gold star. If you don't know what that means, I've never had sex with a man.
I have no clue.
So that's what we call them in the community, gold star. So I'm a bona fide lesbian. But television often likes to put you in a box and make you butch or like butch. And I'm femme and I like femme. So I've written things as well to represent the part of the community that I'm in, or like what I've experienced in my life, and what that representation looks like, because it's a lot different than other people's journey. So that's kind of, why I wrote it too, is just to have more inclusion and representation in mainstream television, as well as women being leads and women writers, because I think we're often, we don't get that representation very often.
Well, I love that you're doing it. I think good job. I know being a finalist is always a good thing. And I will say this, I'm glad you are getting it out there to be seen.
Yeah.
Obviously you've protected it. Can you talk about that? Because I've seen as of late some let's put it this way. Sometimes people say, we don't take your idea, but they do. They pass on it or they read it and then they give it to someone and then they get it made. And you're like, that scene is my scene. Isn't that weird that that's there?
Yeah.
Like, what protection do you have for that?
I mean, honestly, you don't. I've talked to so many friends that are in the industry, and it's like, it could sit on your laptop because you're so afraid of that happening. Or you get it out there, and that's the risk. I guess it's just the risk you take. You can copyright it. It's copyrighted. And I have all of the emails from the people and the tracing and all that kind of stuff. But, hopefully there's just not enough details for it to be like the details that I've given. There's not really enough out there for someone to make it completely like mine, or I don't know. You have to take the risk, because there's no reward if you don't take the risk. So I haven't really tried to do much with it yet, because I'm filming another pilot that I wrote in January. So once that's done and wrapped up, then I'm really going to try to push for this one to maybe move forward somewhere else too, because I'd really love to see this one made. It like has a special place in my heart, as twisted as it is.
I mean, I would love to see it as well. So
yeah, I've already watched it in my head while I was writing it, and I'm like, this is so good. And I'm like, where is it? And I'm like, you're going crazy, Alia.
Well, good. That also means you know how you want it shot, right?
Yes, I do. It's very gritty, and it's really like this piece excites me. So And even if I don't get to be in it, maybe I could be the computer tech person, but I'm open to like whoever finds interest in it, but it needs to live in like a good place, a good home, you know.
Thank you for saying that, by the way. Sometimes people that invest in film are like, this is not going to work in this way. But if you're willing to be like, okay, you know, I'll take a back seat as long as it's made. That's probably the best way to get your script done. Don't hold on. I've had so many opportunities. I've had to, like, people sometimes say, okay, because you do an entertainment show on, you know, ABC, KMET, 1490 AM. Big shout out to them. You know, you meet a lot of people and you can get people like to be interested in our thing. And then I take it there and then they're the one who either A, wants to direct, or B, want to like be the role. And I'm like, they're bringing the money. They're also bringing the people.
Yeah.
You know, they're bringing the professionals. Like, don't let don't let that get in the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think
absolutely
you're open,
not.
so that's a good idea.
I'm very open
Good.
because I love it so much that I just want to share it with the world, however it ends up happening. It takes a little bit too, because I'm a newer writer. I've studied acting for 25 years. So this is a new avenue for me. So it's like, it's a different kind of love. But if I get creator credit and I get to have one small role in it, that's still something to be proud of, and that's still a big deal, you know.
It's
and
still something that you shared with the world as well. So
and it's my story from my brain. It's not taking from anything else, you know. So that's it's like you have to find different wins as you get older they're gonna sort of be as wonderful as what you imagined your life to be, and it's not quite there, you know. And then it opens other doors. Like, you never know where you can go from there.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, take it, make it, and give me the credit.
Love it. Great job. I can't wait to see more from you. Keep it coming. And I know all the great things that you're going to do are going to be seen eventually, and hopefully sooner than later, right?
Yeah, sooner than later. Come on, universe.
There you go.
All right. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much.
We got to take a quick break. We'll be back with more right after this. Stay tuned.
In the beginning, all films were short.
It's not a charity. We're not here to help you. We're not here to help your cause. We're there to make our money make money.
It probably takes a year to 2 years to really start seeing money.
That title of executive producer on a feature is not the same as the title of executive producer on a television show.
Because what you're seeing on television right now is history in terms of where decisions are being made today.
Don't give yourself a bad review before you start.
I'm sorry, I'm super awesome, and this is my pitch.
What are recommendations for packaging?
Getting to the right person at the right time, and you have the right piece of the package that they want to see.
And be able to adjust, because the plan will never execute exactly as you plan it.
If you set aside money for social media, for a publicist, for marketing, things like that, and really you don't have to sit behind those dollars and you can have more control of your own release.
You can't go wrong. Like, what? As for me, I knew that my episode was either going to be awesome or fine. Like, that's the risk you take.
In the beginning, all films were short.
It's not a charity. We're not here to help you. We're not here to help your cause. We're there to make our money make money.
It probably takes a year to 2 years to really start seeing money.
That title of executive producer on a feature is not the same as the title of executive producer on a television show.
Don't give yourself a bad review before you start.
I'm sorry, I'm super awesome, and this is my pitch.
We're here with Amanda Oz. Amanda, you are a writer. Your film, I can't wait to see. It's called Six Impossible Things. Welcome. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I see you just messaged me on LinkedIn. Do you message on LinkedIn a lot? Do you use that as a film writer?
For the marketing, absolutely, all the time.
That's smart. I had an actress one time tell me, I'm going to get off LinkedIn. I don't have any value in that. And I'm like, I think that's probably something you shouldn't do, because I have found a lot of writers, a lot of even people that like in India, they produce like animated films or shorts. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I do a lot of the marketing because I was told, until you get an agent, be your own agent. And there's so many awesome producers on LinkedIn. I have 7,000 connection and I do it every day.
Okay, I love that you do that. I know your film. I don't know anything about except that there's impossible things and there happens to be 6 of them. What's it about?
Yes. So it's about a mother who's actually a child psychology student, finding out that her own daughter, who's 8-year-old, is being sexually abused. And she's kind of baffled because she is the professional and she didn't notice it in her own house. So the investigation is starting and the police is coming with no leads. So the actual mother and her best friend are starting to follow the child and kind of investigate on their own with the help of 2 other detectives from the local police. And and what they find out is that the child was trafficked by a cult. And this is a type of cult that I grew up with. So I'm kind of writing from experience. And there's 2 special things that this type of cult do. And I try to show them in the feature. And the one thing that they do with the victims is they intentionally create multiple personality within the children or the babies. They probably maybe found it out, excuse me, by mistake, but then they started doing it intentionally. And then the second thing they do is they use a mind programming to program those parts to serve their criminals' intents. So, for example, in the movie, when the child is being interviewed by the police, by the DCYF, by the detective, she is programmed to let a part that doesn't know anything about the abuse come forward. And so they ask her, did this happen? No. Did this happen? No. And she's not even lying. She really does not have the information about it. So the mother ends up using the child drawing, analyzing her drawing to see evidence of ritual abuse and the DID, the multiple personality. And she ends up placing her in foster care. Then she gets kidnapped. And then they're starting to follow her and try. She put tracking devices and they split and like that. So there's a lot of action and excitement. And in the end, she's able to access the ritual that the child was kidnapped to participate in. And towards the end, she realized that her own husband, unfortunately, is a part of the cult. And of course, she saved her daughter, and the daughter herself starts to resist the cult. So that's that.
That's heavy.
It's good too, because I think a lot of people don't understand. Like, okay, and I did some studying on this. I talked to some professionals, especially when it comes to kids who are molested at a young age. Right? Sometimes they forget entirely that it happened. And then some, when they're like put on trial, they freeze up. They don't know what to say. But you're taking it in a way that's kind of a world thing. They call it secret society, right? And there are certain people that make a lot of money trafficking women. That's the way people know it. But you're doing it in a way where it's like it's unfortunately the father the whole time who knows, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And it often happened that way. I mean, that's how it happened in my family.
Wow.
We're very comfortable with the stranger kidnapping or the stranger abusing, but we're not as comfortable or willing to be open to the idea of mainstream people who are not criminal. My father, he was a high military. He probably didn't even have one parking ticket his whole life. And yet he belonged to this cult, and the cult is encouraging the members to break all society's limitations and taboos. So, from the outside, looks like a very normal family. So it's a little crazy making, but you need to, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm glad, Amanda, that you did this because you speak from experience. A lot of people don't have that. So they have conceptual. I'll give you an example, like Taken, right? With Liam Neeson, right? That like really opened my eyes. I'm like, the moment you like travel, I mean, I'm even watching Rebecca like going, I know you're around safe people, but what if there's a person that takes advantage of you? Because she's from Canada, right? But she, and you see someone like her, like they would see her and they would do something, right?
I mean, I think what this really does is it brings awareness that is something that isn't talked about. And I had the exact same experience as you, not with a cult, but the rest of it. And I think being able to talk about it and being able to share that story and make people realize that this is a thing that does happen and people don't live in their pretty little worlds and everything's not perfect. And this is something that people need to be aware of. So good for you for making this.
Thank you. I'm really glad you said it because that's exactly why I'm writing, because I never grew up hearing about that. I even went to Smith College to be a therapist and they never talked about that there.
No.
It's like nowhere. So I'm like, I went to Emerson because I'm like, I'm going to produce a movie about that. And then when I got there, I said, I guess I'm going to have to write it too because there's nothing.
Yeah. No. And it's nice that like people like me, and I know that there are other people because I've talked to other people, we don't have anything that we look at the television. We're like, yes, that is what my family looked like. Yes, that is what I relate to. That doesn't happen. We grew up with like every film, especially in North America, is very, you have to have the happy ending and everyone has to be happy and everyone has to be, there has to be justice, and that doesn't happen. That's just not reality. So I'm happy that you're making something that the rest of us can relate to, and say yes, we could see ourselves. Yes.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Absolutely, because there's not a happy ending right now for a lot of children, and
no. But it'll be a happy ending for you once you get this movie out there.
And what will that take, Amanda?
What
will that take to get it made?
Well, like they said before, get it into the right person at the right time.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought it to La Femme. I'm glad, they have like, the ability to kind of go, okay, these are the scripts that we endorse. These are the scripts that we think have something to go with it. And this is, because I know Leslie has a lot of connections here in Hollywood, and her and I have talked in the past about certain things, especially about streaming and stuff. When I joined her, I just wanted to kind of get, things out there. I was doing a lot of entertainment stuff, some producing and some other things. And I was like, you know what? I like what you're doing because you're putting people first, especially stories first. And that's what La Femme does. It really highlights the message that needs to be out there that sometimes gets sequestered. And again, back to society and or cult and or pedophiles, right? Or people that molest other kids. That's a whole type of dark that you go, how can we shine light? And how can we bring the people that want to shine light to that to the fore? Because I think sometimes there's pushback from those that go, oh, shoot, I don't want this out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And how do you do it in an entertaining way that people actually want to watch it?
Right. It has to be entertaining or it's not going to sell.
Yeah.
But I see it really as a part of the process. Like 100 years ago, nobody wanted to believe that women were sexually abused at all, or the incest even happened. So this is like the next wave. And, you know, I had to be very extremely gentle with what I put. And, you know, it's funny because I had someone who was reading it for English, and she said, how did you come up with that? I'm like, this is based on my experience and other survivor experience. And if you think that's bad, oh my God, this is like nothing.
This is G-rated compared to what it is, right?
Yes, but you have to be gentle, you know, because the audience, I mean, I needed to be gentle with myself when I started in therapy, remembering the things. I didn't remember the worst thing right away. You know, I started a little bit at a time. So I try to be as gentle like that with my audience and just kind of give them a little bit at a time and kind of educate them in a way that's part of the story, that's entertaining.
I have to speak on that because I know a situation. I don't go publicly with it because it's their story. But there's a theory that the guy, although he did it at a later age at 15, the question is, did it happen earlier and did she forget? Because some abuse victims don't know till like 30, 40, 50, 60 even. I've even heard of a 70-year-old go, I think my dad did this. It's locked up somewhere. What was it that you got? What was the help that you got to kind of unlock that and go, oh, shoot, that really happened?
Well, that's a great question, because especially with the cult, but also other abusers, they really stress not telling. And in the cult, that's a big. They put so much effort into making sure the children will not tell. And they show you very scary things that's going to happen to you if you tell. Mm-hmm. So, and also it's just, you know, like I said before, it's the natural dissociation, the defense of the person from overwhelming information, you know. And even me, that I am talking about it, it like took me 40 years in therapy, and after my father died, now I'm talking about it, you know. So yeah, absolutely, part of it is maybe say, you know, they tell you I'm gonna kill your mother if you ever tell, or, you know, one of the things that they do in the cult, from the research that I did, was they set up situations where you ask for help, or somebody pretending to be a police officer coming and offering help, and then betraying you, and then abusing you also. So it's kind of a lot of messages not to tell, and they're very masterful. Really, they're creating a little bit of a perfect crime, because the children makes them a ton of money, and they are either not going to remember, or, you know, they're going to be too scared to tell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what was your relationship like with your father after?
After I found out?
Did you have one? Or after, yeah.
You know, it's definitely complex. I mean, there were years where I just refused to talk to him at all. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of came to a place where I realized, he was probably abused also, and possibly in the same cult, because they do encourage you to bring your children. And I was so scared to have children, you know, and you see that a lot. Survivors, they just don't have children because what they saw happen to babies. So, so I kind of, I kind of had a little more empathy. You know, it was more like a spiritual process. You know, I was told, you know, we're all connected to divine, and we're all really not as separated as we think. Like, it's like a field of mushrooms, but we're all connected. So I'm like, okay, so I'm really like, there's not really a difference. So it kind of, the forgiveness kind of happened naturally. I don't believe in pushing for forgiveness. It kind of happened naturally, but I had to go through the pain, through the processing and recovering, and then it kind of came by itself.
Amazing.
I believe in letting go, but I don't believe in forgiving. That's me, because I'm like, I don't want you around my child. You know, I don't want you around someone else's child. I want you to go to prison. I think you need to. So that's my story I'm sticking to. I wrote a book about that for kids, and it's something, you know, my father was abused as a kid physically, and his sisters were as well. The guy's dead, but, you know, I called him grandpa, and I didn't realize how deep it went. But my point is this, sometimes you got to call things out, and you know what? Hey, wherever you go after you die, there's got to be some recompense. Is my point. Yeah. Because there is no recompense for that.
I think there is.
Yeah, and it could ruin a whole life, like you said, and ruin the future for that person. So I'm against it from the start, and I think more people need to be out about it and against it. I know certain clergy members are getting sued for it. That's a whole other conversation. But thank you so much for spending time with us here on La Femme 2022, and great job. Whatever you need, hey, I'll hook up with you maybe for lunch or something, and we'll see what we could do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
You know, in the beginning, all films were short.
It's not a charity. We're not here to help you. We're not here to help your cause. We're there to make our money make money.
It probably takes a year to 2 years to really start seeing money.
That title of executive producer on a feature is not the same as the title of executive producer on a television show.
Don't give yourself a bad review before you start.
I'm sorry, I'm super awesome, and this is my pitch.
Joining us right now are some amazing people which actually have a film ready to see. And oddly enough, it doesn't look like a student film. I'm going to say that. It's called Let's Go. And yet it is, right, ladies?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks really good, by the way. I'm looking at it here right now, and I'm saying, okay, what did you do to make it look like a feature, even though it's a short?
Actually, the story is, it's a story for a feature film, but we don't have all that things we can do to make it the feature, so we have to do it short. So I really shortened the story kinda, but we always wanted to do a feature. So that's actually the story.
Well,
so are you putting it out hoping to find the funding to be able to turn it into a feature, or are you happy with where it's at right now?
No, it's definitely going to be a feature. Yes. It's in progress, kind of.
Okay, tell us about it. What is it?
It's the story is about a young woman. She is going to she's going with her husband to the old lake house, and there she has to make to bring her best friend the box. And actually, that's not the movie we're showing.
Yeah, I don't think what we're seeing on the right side is actually.
That's my fault. And you know what? I'm going to do this. We're going to start over because I brought up the wrong one. Okay, I want you to get the right one. Sorry, I apologize. I have Let's Go on this. What's the title of the movie?
Let's Go. It's Komm wir gehen. So it's
the German version is Komm wir gehen.
Okay, there's two films called Let's Go. That's why we brought up the wrong one. I apologize. or I just brought up the wrong. No, I brought up the wrong one. That was. Or you know what? The trailer's linked to the wrong one. Okay, my fault. Let's start this over again, and we'll give you a proper, because the trailer is the wrong one linked to it. I apologize.
It's fine.
All right, Adam, can we do that again? Just kind of go to a real quick, like 30, and then bring it back, and we'll do it like it's brand new.
All right. So the story is about...
No. And hold on. Adam's going to take this break. Thank you, Adam. Adam's like, what? Here, I'll do it. That's right. It is La Femme 2022. We've got some amazing film makers here, including a film which I have to say it reads like a very important film. It's called Let's. It's done in a title which actually it looks. Is it in English or what? What is it?
The original language is German. We shot in Austria as our graduation movie from film school.
Okay. It looks really cool. I understand. It looks great, by the way. It's film worthy. What is it about?
The film is about old lady, and she needs to go back to the old lake house to make her best friend a favor. And in that journey, on one-day journey, kind of, she goes back to that lake house. She finds all the things. She remembers the summer of '68 and everything what happens in that summer and don't happen, kind of. And so the movie is actually about what if the things would happen if we would have, or if we would choose another direction. So
Amazing.
it's
like a dream sequence of what could have been.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love that. So this is a short, but you're
Right.
actually wanting to turn it into a feature film.
Yes, that's true. Actually, the whole story there's so much in it, so it exactly could be a feature film, but we need to do a short for graduation, so we make the essence kinda and put it into 30 minutes, but the feature is in making. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm so excited to see it and to see this one.
Mhm.
What was your biggest takeaway from film school? Did you love it?
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, 100%. And maybe also, especially talking about this movie, like Anna said, we had to do a short film, but it was really important for us to take this opportunity and do the kind of movie that we'd really love to see. And so it has a certain look, it has a certain style. There was a lot of challenges that came with it. So we learned really a lot in the process. And among that, for sure, all our colleagues, all the collaborators. So yeah, that was for sure one of the biggest takeaways. Everything that we also learned from each other in the process, and where we're taking.
And who did what? Who wrote, directed? You wrote, directed, produced, acted in?
Yeah, actually, I wrote the story and directed it, and Sabine did the production and much everything else, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any like things that you go, okay, now that we did this, we're ready for the next thing? I know it's already looking really good. I've seen a lot of films come in, especially this year, from like student, and I'm like, can we just see this as a big screen like film? Like, what's going on, and what does it take to get it to that?
The thing is, of course, we are just in school, but we wanted to dream big and to make it big, and because that's what we wanted and where we want to go. So we said, okay, we are just students, but we really wanted to make it the highest thing we can do. And so it was always in our mind to make a high quality film with all the things we can have and we can offer. And what was the question again? Sorry.
Oh no, you got it. Like look, sometimes when people say, okay, I got the funds for this, let's do this. You go, okay, we have this as kind of like the proof of concept is what people are calling it. I call it like a demo reel, right? What you want, the way you want it shot. Is there anything that you go, okay, I want to keep that, but I will not sacrifice this?
Actually, we just thought we want to make it the highest we can do. And a lot of people said, you will never find this location. You will never get those amazing Austrian actors. You will never, ever, ever, ever. But, well, we just did it, kind of, yeah.
Maybe to add to that, we kind of felt like in the process that a lot of our students would write things in a way that they thought it was possible to put it in practice and to actually film it. And in the entire development, we always wanted to not put that blockage in front of our head and kind of just trusted that we would meet the right people, that we would make the right connections, and probably had the passion and the belief in ourselves to bring all those things to life. So that's kind of why it looks the way it does now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm excited for it. This is the second lake movie that we're seeing right now in this year's submission. So I think you're obviously onto something that needs to be kind of out there. And I love kind of the title. It says, 4 friends spend their last summer together where life-changing decisions were made. 2021, years later, 2 of the 4 friends visit the lake house again to finally answer the question, what would have happened if? And that big if is like what next, right? So I can't wait to see it. I know people can go find it right now. You just have to click on the link below, and then you can find all the great lineup right there. There's the poster. I love the poster, by the way, and I love the way it's shot. So great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really had a lot. It's so.
Joining us right now, Catherine, Wyeth, and Nina. You got a film right here, A Boy Called Piano. And this one is actually a feature. First of all, great job. Second of all, welcome to La Femme. Is this your first time?
Yeah, hello. Yes, this is our first time.
Okay, well, I have to say, we're glad to have you. Whenever I see a documentary, I go, okay, what am I going to learn? And this is taking place as a feature with, and I love this place. I got to visit it at some point, New Zealand.
Yes, Aaron, the story is about Famuana Luafutu, who came to New Zealand from Samoa in the late 1950s as a young child. And he ended up being taken away from his family and placed in state care. So it's really documenting the experiences that he had in state care and the huge intergenerational impacts of those experiences on his son and his grandson, on his whole whānau and ainga, and their pathway to healing and freedom as a family through the process of Famuana telling his story through the creative arts.
Well, I think it looks like something I want to see. It looks very like some would say gritty, dark, and I think that's kind of what you were going for in the process of it. Did you like find it in the middle, or did you know what you were doing all the way through?
I suppose we really was, we were looking for the light. We're looking for healing, for all people incarcerated. You're sort of trying to think about how do you help them go through a process. So we really looked at nature and all the nature of New Zealand, the oceans, the rivers, things that people who are in isolation or in jail cannot experience. So ultimately, you know, when you ask someone to travel back into darkness, it's about really finding the light.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys kind of, you know, tell the story very well. I love the description of it as well, I should say, because it takes a person and it says, okay, this is the experience of this one, and it involves a lot when it comes to prison, gang, and a lot more. Did you find him or he found you? How did that happen?
We sort of all found each other. His son was at the New Zealand Drama School, and my husband was an acting tutor. And the father, Fa'amoana, had written a book, and so we got gifted his book, which he wrote when he was in jail. And we thought, gosh, why don't we turn it into a play? Because we're theatre makers at the heart of our company, and so it's been an 8-year journey, and we made a play, and then we made The Boy Called Piano into a play, and then of course with COVID. We really sidestepped and thought, oh, let's make a documentary and capture it in a digital form. So it's been like, as we know, when you ask people to be very personal about their own truths and how to bring hidden stories to the surface, of course, it's always about trust. So yes, it has been an 8 or 9 year journey for us all. And it's a privilege and it's brave to to show all one's inner feelings, which men and women have in those jails. And actually, it's quite a Indigenous story in a way. There are many stories like this for Indigenous people in their own countries with culture and incarceration.
Well, and I like that you bring up the part about how he was taken from his family and then placed in state care, and then he had abuse along with other children in the same area. Is that kind of like a thing that you're calling awareness of as well? Because one can lead to the other.
Absolutely. I mean, there is a Royal Commission of Inquiry in New Zealand currently happening with the government to do with all of the children in state care in the 60s and 70s. And so there were things that went on, as we all know, things that get hidden. And so those, there was abuse and there was a lot of things that happened to the children. And a lot of this is the formation of the gangs in New Zealand, and when children bond through pain and that bond for life. So it is purposeful. It is purposefully highlighting these things, and it's purposefully using clips that are woven in from the Royal Commission of Inquiry so that so one can highlight to the government, his own story, the voice of the voiceless, the man himself, rather than files and prison files and that sort of thing. That's, that's the purpose, is him speaking for himself and other children that went through the system in New Zealand.
Well, I know, Catherine, you got some things that, you and Nina obviously kind of do. And I'll put it this way. Documentaries don't really get sometimes the light of day because it's a documentary, and sometimes you have to find the people that want to watch this. But having like a film part of all the films here at La Femme and kind of be showcased in that way, does it kind of like make it like all that work for like, and what does he say? Did he see it?
Fa'amoana has seen it. Yes, we've screened throughout Aotearoa, New Zealand, as part of the New Zealand International Film Festival. So we had the opportunity to present the film as a team, and Fa'amoana was there with us and able to talanoa and speak directly with the audiences. And it's so moving to see the people who come and see the film who are survivors themselves, and the power of that representation and the enormous power of just being of a story, an untold story, just being witnessed and acknowledged. So it's been very moving to see the reactions of survivors who come and see the film. And yes, I think you're right, Aaron, that there's huge resonances across cultures, across nations. This is a story that goes across continents and across generations. generations of children being taken from their families, especially Indigenous children, happens all over the world. So we do expect there to be deep resonances in other countries where the film is viewed. And it's a real privilege to be able to represent survivors in this way through Famuana sharing his own story with such courage.
Yeah, I have to say, other than, look, I want a connection to New Zealand. I'm not going to lie. Are you guys living there, or are you like, where are you from? Where are you streaming from right now?
We're here from Wellington, which is our capital, the bottom of the North Island. So we're in town with Jacinda Ardern, our wonderful Prime Minister.
Even better. Okay, well, I know you're staying safe over there. I got a friend over there, but seriously, I want a tour. So great job on this. It looks amazing. I love the beach scene. It reminds me of Chariots of Fire. Did you ever see that?
No, I haven't. Catherine?
No, I haven't seen Chariots of Fire, but I've heard of it. Thank you. I know it's a very acclaimed movie. It's we really wanted to make this film with a huge amount of beauty, and as Nina said, Nina's vision was to capture those elements which are denied to prisoners and to children who are incarcerated. So the elements of wind and water and those beautiful places that you can escape to in your memory when you're in a really terrible situation. So the film is made, I think it's an unusual documentary in the way that it incorporates a lot of visual artistry. It's not, there is of course the interviews and, but there's a lot of visual poetry in the film as well. So thank you.
No, thank you for doing everything you're doing. Rebecca, before we go, I think you had a question.
No, I think you actually answered my question.
Okay. All right, good. All right, so again, we can check this out. Here it is. Just kind of bring it up real quick for you guys to see. It's right there, A Boy Called a Piano. And it is a very good film, obviously, about a life of a guy who unfortunately has a horrible thing kind of handed him. And this is the kind of thing that I say, at least, you can triumph. Eventually, you just got to get the help, and you got to get the understanding of the people that say, hey, we get it. You went through a lot. I understand why you kind of went to the violent route of your life. I'll say again, it's kind of a theme today. My father, or my stepfather, I should say, he went through this, but he rebounded in the end, but now he's suffering still because sometimes it affects you mentally,
Mm.
Yeah, so thank you for that. All right, we got more right after this. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
We're here with EJ Rosen. Hello, EJ. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you, Aaron?
Doing good, doing good. I understand your film, which is actually right here, Sedentary, is a feature of this year, 2022. I will say this, it's a really good one. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so it's a 30-minute documentary on the health effects of sedentarism, too much sitting, and it's trying to convey sedentarism as a culturally enforced behavior. We're required to sit for long stretches of time in elementary school, and then our bodies become accustomed to that, and then we're required to sit for long stretches of time in the office, maybe with a little more leeway, but as a child, it's required of us. And there's a half century more, 70 or so years of research about the health effects of sedentarism. And, you know, the research has been showing for decades and decades and decades that there are serious health effects associated with too much sitting. And so my hope with this film is that policymakers who are thinking about movement and physical education in classrooms might, you know, use this documentary as a starting point to go read more about sedentary behavior and the cardiometabolic effects of too much sitting, the cardiovascular effects of too much sitting, the sensory effects of too much sitting during those key years of development. So my hope is that it's kind of like an educational primer, an introduction to a realm of research that's, you know, it's been going for 70 years, but it's ever growing. The Sedentary Behavior Research Network only just formed in, you know, the recent decade, and they're formalizing their definitions, etc. And then, you know, it's one of those films where, like, when you're watching it, you're like, oh, geez.
I feel really bad sitting right now, just listening to you.
Yeah. And so my hope is that funny enough where you're like, you know, forgiving yourself while you're watching it.
Well, I will say this, there is science. And I remember a few years back, I got in touch with someone who was a very smart, let's put it this way. They deal with sometimes, okay, kids in schools. And I love that you put the school. What school was that, by the way?
That's Berkwood Elementary. I was filming in Berkeley, California. They have smaller classes there, so they've got these like wobble stools, and they have sort of a policy that allows more movement and getting up and down and running around. Most public schools don't have that. If you have 32 students to take care of as a teacher, it gets a little chaotic when you're giving them time and space to move around. So then there's this whole like economics of educational production that like requires sedentarism, which is like a fight between the machine and the body or something.
Well,
and it's just not natural for us.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
It's just not natural for humans.
It's like we've spent how many eons with a lot more motion, and then you have, not that I'm a historian per se, I can't be like industrialization then leads, you know, but
it was industrial. Yeah.
I invite theses
somewhere around there.
around this, you know, but there's in the computer age, we're sedentary. In an academic setting, we're sedentary. As the factory gets more and more sort of, you know, you're working on one little thing, your legs are not moving, etc. Not to glorify like spending a day in the field per se, but there just is this fact that our vascular system, our venous transport system relies on our muscles moving to help it pump. And so what the equation is to like allow ourselves as a society, as a globe, as a group of people to get as much movement as we need, I don't know. But there is all of this sort of like cultural and economic and social interplay involving, it's like there's culture, design, and the body, and they're all interwoven in terms of outcomes.
Well,
But we've separated them.
I'm glad you mentioned that because, okay, so brain balance, I had a little one, I used to babysit him, and he actually, the doctor said, okay, you need pills for ADHD, right? Or ADD. Sometimes it's that. And so the mom, actually, she like understood, A, she didn't want a pill for her kid, right? And B, she's like, there's got to be a more natural way. So she did some investigating, and she turned me on to a company called Brain Balance, and they help kids from a very early age to like teen be able to kind of like I will say this, like unwrap their mind using physical, mental, and then stimulation of not just like, as you mentioned, sedentary, but sometimes the brain understands better. I'll give you an example. Sometimes when you're talking on the phone, you pace, right? You're at a better like
Or when we speak, we gesticulate, and it's for a reason. It's just we are a system. We're a whole system. And so it's like, of course, my ideas and my thought processes are related to my physical state or what I'm able to do with my body. Whether I'm a baby restrained or I'm a baby who can crawl around and think about, you know, it's like, what's gesticulation if not some evidence that like our body and mind are like helping one another or one and the same, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was you?
Oh, go ahead.
Again, I just want to know where your passion came from to want to educate on this topic.
I have this sort of dual background in design theory, and then like performance, and then like those intersecting at costume and like costume becoming like a character or something. And so I'm always thinking about like embodying objects and thinking about the function of things melded with the aesthetics. And so chairs, shoes, these like beautiful tools, right? Like a shoe is not just a tool, and a chair is not just a tool, and a chair is not just a sculpture either, you know? So there's this like, so I've been fascinated with that for a while, but I had chronic hip pain for 5 years, and that got me really noticing the geometry of chairs. And I felt really like trapped and sunken. Most office chairs tilt a little bit back. And I thought, I'm trying to sit up at the table. Like, I feel trapped by this chair, and I'm like looking around everywhere. And it's like the furniturial environment, this ecosystem around me is not giving me an option that feels healthy. This is what's dominant. This is like the market ecosystem of chairs. And I thought, what the heck? You know what I mean? And I got obsessed with it because I had pain and it was agitating me. So whether that's hyper specific to me or that's a little bit canary in a coal mine or something, I don't know. But that's I'm interested in it. And then Galen Kranz, who comes before me in this, she wrote the book, The Chair, Rethinking Body, Culture, and Design, which is almost like the primer that underlies this documentary. I went to study with her at Berkeley. She and I are both students of the Alexander technique and sort of this like thinking about design in a somatic way, social and somatic factors in design. But so it's pain that brought me to this, and just like a lifelong preoccupation with design.
Well, it's a very interesting. Well, and I like that you mentioned design. So I got so many questions now. We're out of time. But okay, so let me kind of put it this way, because they believe in Brain Balance. It's a great company. You should check it out. It's also a good book as well. But it kind of you bridge the gap of why it needs to be in the school system. What I mean by that is this: you should not require certain kids that are what I call so smart, but they're kind of like in the school system testing bad. They sometimes fail because, you know, they're stressed out. They have a lot of anxiety, but they sometimes have an IEP. That's a thing. And what I say is just do some quick little things in the school system to not make them mandatory have to sit. That's number one. Number two, not get in trouble for not sitting down, because some actually do well when they stand up. I'll give you an example. My mom, who's an executive secretary, she did better when her desk raised and then she was able to stand and not sit down, because she has bad back pain, right? And a lot of people do that, whether they're old or young. So what would you do going forward in the school system? What would you have them implement, especially after watching your documentary?
So standing, I think, is not quite the answer. People think, oh, sitting bad, standing good, opposite. But nothing is, that black and white. You can be sedentary while standing. Like if you're standing very, very still for a long period of time, you still have vascular issues, with like venous transport upwards. But having a sort of furnitorial, like a varied environment where kids can choose where they are, whether they're in like a like a lounge position like this, or perching, or regular sitting, or kneeling, or like just having some sort of variation. But I acknowledge that, at a certain scale, it's difficult to implement best practices.
Even bouncing balls are good. They say it's good for the core.
That's when I actually in it.
Sorry, I'm getting like a little feedback, and there's like a tapping sound. Do you hear that, or is that just me?
I think it's the earbud.
Right.
Yeah, it's all right. But I think, Rebecca, you bring up a good case. What were you going to say about that? Like, being able to concentrate on a bouncing ball or something?
I don't even know if it was. At least
yeah, it's your earbud. It's your earbud. Maybe switch out the other one. I don't know.
I really want to know what you're saying.
I know. We want to know, Rebecca. We want to know.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say that I think, I don't like being a stagnant person either. And I feel that creativity kind of stops with the flow of your energy stopping as well. So if even on the bouncy ball, if you're going, moving, and I was constantly bouncing or moving around or whatever, and it just helps like breathe that energy as you're going with it. So I think that what you are trying to educate about is a great topic, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'd love to see round tables or like design brainstorming workshops between like preschool teachers, designers, preschool teachers who have huge, or elementary teachers who have huge classes, elementary teachers who have small classes, elementary teachers who have kids with special needs, special attention needs. All brainstorming together about like, there's probably no ideal classroom, because there are some kids who get so stimulated by that ball that they're like off the wall, but then some kids who really need it and it would help them focus. Like, as with everything, a tailored response like is the answer, but how do we deal with this at scale when there's these large public school systems? How do we arrive at this like practical
bean bags? Bring back the bean bags. They're good for college students too. Comfortability.
Yeah.
Bring them back. Anyway, we're out of time, EJ. I know there's an answer, and that's the great thing about watching this film. There's a discussion that can be had about it. Thank you very much for bringing it to La Femme. Congratulations on all you're doing, and good job bringing a very difficult subject to the fore. And if you hook up with the guy, Brain Balance, I think you're going to go next level, because he's looking for stuff like this.
Cool. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks so much. Thanks, La Femme.
Thank you. Cool. More after this.
In the beginning, all films were short.
It's not a charity. We're not here to help you. We're not here to help your cause. We're there to make our money make money.
It probably takes a year to 2 years to really start seeing money.
That title of executive producer on a feature is not the same as the title of executive producer on a television show.
Because what you're seeing on television right now is history in terms of where decisions are being made today.
Don't give yourself a bad review before you start.
I'm sorry, I'm super awesome, and this is my pitch.
What are recommendations for packaging?
Getting to the right person at the right time, and you have the right piece of the package that they want to see.
And be able to adjust, because the plan will never execute exactly as you plan it.
If you set aside money for social media, for a publicist, for marketing, things like that, and really you don't have to sit behind those dollars, and you can have more control of your own release.
you can't go wrong. Like, what, as for me, I knew that my episode was either going to be awesome or fine. Like, that's the risk you take.
Joining us right now is Marsha. Marsha, I understand you have a script. It's another script that is going to be in the final part of La Femme 2022. Tell me, what's it about?
Well, it's called On the Corner of Eden and Grace, and it's a semi-autobiographical story that takes place the weeks between the moonwalk and Woodstock. And it's in one girl's life in the summer of 1969. It was inspired by an incident that actually happened to me, where the night that Neil Armstrong took one small step for man, I was watching that moment with friends, and the boys that night were shooting up heroin. These are 16 and 17-year-old boys. And I must have been in denial, because I'm still thinking like, oh my God, when I'm older, when we're married, you know, I can say I watched the men walk on the moon. And the boy that I was in love with said, man, one day I can tell my kids I was all skagged out watching the moonwalk. We had planned to kind of go to Woodstock. And unfortunately, one of the boys that night died of an overdose on August 9th, which was right before Woodstock. So that happened in my life, and it stayed with me for 50 years. So I had been a high school teacher for 35 years and taught drama and playwriting. And 4 of my students had their plays produced off Broadway. They had had this wonderful, wonderful success. And one day I heard a voice that said, if you don't stop teaching, you're going to die. And, you know, you can push those kind of voices down, but this one kept coming back. And I had seen friends in their 50s die from cancer, had their lives cut short. So I heeded that voice. I took early retirement. Long story short, ended a 40-year marriage, and kind of got in my car and went to Santa Fe and started writing, and actually made a short film and just did all those things. So On the Corner of Eden and Grace is my first screenplay. I taught myself screenwriting, writing that story. And
wow. Well, A, congratulations on moving forward, and B, congratulations on heeding that, you know, sometimes we get a little thing and some admit it, some don't. And I say you might as well admit, especially if it pushes you forward in a good way. I've heard people say, you know, like kind of like the Field of Dreams, right? If you don't build it, they won't come, or if you build it, they'll come, I think is the way it went. You kind of took it, you went next level with it. And I think the subject is really good. When it gets made, obviously, what will be the hope for it eventually?
Well, I had hoped that somebody would be interested in it in 2019 for the 50th anniversary of Woodstock and the moonwalk, and that didn't happen. There were people interested at that time, and then nothing happened, and I almost gave up. I just started putting it out there again because I get really good feedback about the main character, and it becomes a woman's story. This young woman is so bent on saving these boys. You know, she just has to save these boys. She's going to get them to Woodstock. She's going to save them. And one dies and the other one doesn't want to be saved. And she ends up going to Woodstock, but with a girlfriend. It becomes this woman's journey that, okay, these boys they're not going to be saved. The boyfriend actually sexually assaults her when she goes there to comfort him upon losing his friend. There's a moment, my whole life, I felt guilty as a girl that I never told any of the adults in my life what was going on. I mean, you're 16, you don't tell. And I was haunted by that because I kept wondering, could I have saved his life if I told? And then I become a mother and I keep thinking that there's going to be this karma that's coming after me for not telling. You know, my children made it through the teenage years. You know, I taught school. Would I lose students? This terrible guilt. So there's a moment in the film after he assaults her, the protagonist, where she picks up, and then to really spite her, he shoots up, like, I'll show you, you're not going to save me. He shoots up. In that moment, the protagonist picks up his needle, his spoon, and his belt, and she brings it up from the basement and drops it at the feet of his drunk father, and she walks out. And that sort of felt like the moment of redemption for me 50 years later. It's like consciousness met conscience met art.
Yeah.
And that moment, so the process of writing it was redemptive for me because I had the character do what I didn't have the courage to do as a girl. And perhaps girls watching it can see that a girl can do that. She doesn't have to sit there and think she can save these people, you know, or she has to be quiet and it betrays some sort of code. She put the needle and the works and the belt at the boy's father's feet and walked out.
Well, I think it sounds good. I obviously haven't read it. I know it's a finalist. I can't wait to see, you know, what comes. And I'm glad you brought it back because there's some scripts that people sit on, and when somebody asks, "Well, do you have anything?" No. And I'm like, where do you live, by the way?
Well, right now I'm living in Santa Fe. The script is set in Philadelphia, which is where I grew up. And the other part that was interesting that I wove in, and I couldn't have done this as a girl, there's some things that you can only do when you're older, when you have the sweep of history. A lot of these boys that were shooting heroin were children of Holocaust survivors.
Oh, wow.
And that, again, I felt it as a teenager, but the full poignancy of that their parents had gone through what they had gone through, came to America, had these children, and in 1969 these boys are feeling so alienated that they're shooting heroin and they start dying. So I weave that into the story as well.
So there's lots of layers. It's like an onion. I love this.
Yeah, layers. And then the last piece is that initially I just had her like wanting to save the boy. And I said, no, she needs her own story. So I made her a photographer. She's a budding photographer and she works in a camera store. So she has this other part of her life that doesn't have anything to do with saving this boy. And the man who owns the camera store is mentoring her to become an artist. He tells her how she has the good vision and she has good composition. And so giving that layer to her as well, that she has her own trajectory. And sadly, she had to leave him behind.
Sometimes that has to happen. Sometimes people go back to what they need to leave behind. But, well, good job on this. I can already see someone like you're talking about, like a Jennifer Lawrence, or do you have anybody that you have in your mind, like you want that person like to play it? Because I think Jennifer Lawrence is like a really good actress right now.
You know, I had somebody who was interested. I can't say who it was, but it was a teenage actress who was on a TV show people were looking for a film for her to make that jump. I thought she would have been perfect. I think that somebody needs to be young, you know, there's like 18, a kind of innocence.
Because sometimes they can look young, you know,
or look young, or play young. There's an innocence about her but I'll be happy with it. I would just like to see something come of it. So I I dug it out and I have entered it, and it's I'm so grateful to this festival for selecting it.
Well, we're glad you're a part of it. We know we're out of time, but we thank you so much for kind of bringing that to us, because you're right. Woodstock is kind of a thing. I think even if you like, just keep at the charge of it, maybe not go for like the release of Woodstock, like an anniversary, but you just go for the story itself of the time period. There's a big thing in that time period, kind of like somebody just made a mention. Was it you, Rebecca, or somebody made a mention about, oh no, right? That's like all that, that era, right, of rock.
I don't see Woodstock ever not being a trendy topic. Like, it's such a an interesting era that will never ever live again. Like, life will never be like that again. So I think that even for my generation, we're like, wow, that's so cool. So we never get tired of hearing about it.
And it was also the cusp of the second wave feminism of the 1970s. There was 1969, and then there was the 70s. So I love that it's a woman's story, it's a girl's story, and it ends with the girls without the boys. And I realized that after I wrote it, the girls are moving into the 70s.
Yeah,
for themselves.
They are. We got Coachella over here. That's what it reminds me of, like, that whole, like, and they dress the part too. I think you could go there and kind of, get some footage there. All right. Thank you so very much, Marsha, for spending time with us. I know we're out of time, but where can people follow you?
There's my name, Facebook, Instagram.
Okay, awesome. We're going to make sure to follow you there. Thank you for spending time with us. More after this.
Thank you.
That's right. It is time for her. It's a micro something. I will say this. It looks fun. We got with us Imani, Brammer, and Angelia. Jackson, I know we're missing someone around the corner. Maybe she'll join us in the middle. But this looks fun. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah. So wrote a micro series. Imani is actually the star lead, and it's about a young bisexual Black woman who's navigating her late 20s, and she's just also she's dealing with high functioning depression. So we watch her navigate that, and yeah.
Imani, it looks interesting. I will read it. It says, Her is a coming-of-age dramedy about a Black bisexual woman who struggles with high-functioning depression as she navigates her late 20s. That's a hard time, not going to lie. Imani finds escape through dance, dating apps, family, and friends. Okay, I got so many questions right now. What was this role like?
This role was oddly very similar to who I am as an actual person, which I think is a testament to perfect alignment. I've struggled through high functioning depression. I'm not very far from it. I love to dance. I utilize friends and family as outlets. So performing this role felt like I was performing as myself, but an amplified version. And the only alternate version of myself that this role contained was the bisexual part. I'm actually a heterosexual woman. So playing bisexual was actually, it was cool. I like the difference in it.
Well, you're an actress, right? So when you get a role like this, you're like, okay, I can work with this, right? And Angelia, I'm sure there was like a casting thing, or did you have Imani already like in your head, like, oh, this is her? Because it's kind of interesting when some people, I'll give you an example. Like I have an idea of a script right now where I'm like, okay, I see this person as being it, but I kind of wrote it in that way that it would be that person. But sometimes you write it for a person, just like our last interview, and then you don't realize the person that kind of falls in it. You're like, wow, it's almost like that's the person I wrote it for, right?
Yeah, I think it was really divine intervention. The character's name is Imani. Imani auditioned. The casting director sent me her audition, and I loved it. And I said, wow, like she embodies who I envision Imani to be. And then on top of that, she just excelled in the role. So I'm so grateful for her.
Yeah, and it looks amazing. Go ahead, Rebecca. I'm sorry.
I just want to know what the journey with this film was, and like, how did you get to this point, and where do you see it going?
So a lot of news coming soon. So I really envision expanding the story because there are so many different layers to it, as far as not just the sexuality part, but the judgment that if you watch the series, you'll see there's judgment within the queer community as well as family dynamic. So there's so much more to be explored with this story. So I have a pilot in place, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, I'm excited to see it. I mean, really, truly. So you have the first season of, it's a web series, yes?
So right now, we're just doing the film festival run, and we're so excited that we were selected for LA Femme Film Festival, which is amazing. And then after the festival run, we will have some news. We'll be streaming somewhere, so we'll have
everyone's
news.
gonna have to stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Well, I'm excited for you guys. Look, I understand, again, whenever something's kind of, let's put it this way. Okay, whose idea was it to get with La Femme?
That was the producer, Ephraim Benton. He's not on right now, but he's a genius, And
I love it when guys make a suggestion like that, right? I'm like, I say, get the word out to guys. It's not just a festival of. Sometimes people go, okay, we nod to the people that support us, and I say, hey, guys are not dumb, right? So like we can help along the way, right? We could connect the dots, right? But back to this. But back to this film, I think it speaks to something that you kind of tapped into, Imani, which is sometimes there is a thing that happens, especially in this like age that we're living in, when it comes to depression. And can you speak on that, either one of you, as to like what you want that message to be to other young women?
Yeah,
I can
go first.
Go
first. Go ahead.
Okay. Coming from a very personal perspective with high functioning depression, what I can say to society is just because the person is high functioning does not mean they are absent of depression. It does not mean they are not struggling through their days. And you never know, it'll be the person with the brightest smile. And I'm speaking from my personal experience. I crack the most jokes. I'm always laughing. And then in the same breath, I can be crying hysterically and pick up the phone and act like everything is okay. So what I have to say about that is to be gentle with people. And no matter what people are showing you, you still do not know the half of it. So treat people with the utmost tender respect, with the utmost tender empathy, because it doesn't matter what they're telling you. They can be going through something and you don't have to know what it is. And they don't have to disclose to you what it is either. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that we're living in an age where people are talking about mental health a lot more often, and I think that it's really important. And kudos to you guys, and thank you for kind of shedding light on what it's like to struggle with depression and mental health, what it's like being a Black woman in America, having to struggle with mental health and depression, what it's like being a bisexual Black woman, struggling with mental health and depression in America. It's definitely topics that are finally coming to light right now, and I think it's really important. So I'm excited to see it, and I'm kudos to you guys for putting it out there and sharing your story.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
You're welcome. Thank you, Rebecca.
And I can tell you have a fan already. Alia Gonzalez says, treat people with love. I love that. And also says big facts, and even says some other really good stuff. But I will say this, look, get this information out there, because right now, and I've never heard that term, by the way. I've heard like other terms, because my, let's put it this way. I have a fam that actually suffer from what they used to call clinical depression. What's the difference between that type of depression and like what you said? What was the term?
It's high functioning depression.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Yeah, so high functioning depression, it's finally being discussed more. And so what it is, it's basically I can walk around smiling, laughing, joking, go on through my days, but I'm basically wearing a mask. When I'm home, I might be crying and just going through all the different motions. So it's different in that aspect, because it's something that it's not so visible as far as to the outward appearance.
Got it. Like I'm smiling outside, but I'm crying inside, like literally.
Yeah, okay. It's the same way. I feel like there's been a lot of comics recently who have, passed away, and those people are hurting inside, but they want to always make people laugh. Like Robin Williams and people like that. And I feel like there's definitely like a parallel with high functioning depression there.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I met comedians behind the scenes, and sometimes I see them, they're always in front of the camera, and then we've had them on the show. We had one, and you could tell he's going through something, and I'm like, okay. And then somebody said something to me. What people don't understand is comedians are basically an essence of a hard time in their life, and so they make fun of things, and they help people, deal with life. But that's also why they turn to alcohol. That's why they turn to late night stuff. And sometimes they're just dealing with something that you would never know. Back to something you mentioned, Robin Williams suffered a lot behind the scenes that he didn't come out about. His wife finally came out about it later, but he had a diagnosis that he didn't let people know about. And it's kind of like, okay, when it goes next level with certain people, women or men, or a woman like in this case, Imani, the one that you play, she's going through a lot, right?
Yeah, she's going through a lot. And Alia Gonzalez, she's actually a supporting actress in the show. Imani was able to navigate her depressive state through her best friend in the show, played by Alia Gonzalez. And it's a testament to having your tribe with you, having your tribe strengthened and committed to you, and committed to understanding that whatever it is you're going through, love is what you need first and foremost. And that's what I have to say about that.
And what would you have to say about what would be like your piece of advice for other women going through the same thing?
For other women going through high functioning depression, my advice would be to find an outlet. Outlets is what helped me to navigate it personally. Outlets is what helps the character Imani and her to navigate it. And outlets can be your friends, your family, dance. Dating is what Imani does in the show, but do it healthily. Do it in a healthy way. and speak to someone, because the more you wear the mask, the heavier the mask becomes, and eventually the mask falls. So you need to there has to be at least one person you can be transparent with and confide in, and you can cry on them. And in the show, Imani's best friend was that person.
Yeah, I like it. A guy I already connected with that is Ephraim in social media says, "Actor's face, laugh now, cry later." Logo. Yeah, it's so true. And I say again, thank you for bringing this film to us. I think we lost Angelia, but maybe hopefully she's not traveling while she's speaking on the road. But again, thank you so very much for getting this to us, and thank you for becoming a part of the festival of the year.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Imani.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angelia.